So what I want to share with you guys today, with you ladies, is it's actually, unfortunately, it's not going up on the screens. Is it up? Oh, cool. Okay, it's up on the one, but not on the other. Okay, cool. So Adelia spoke about when you should actually have a coach. But you know what? Any time is a good time. Because this is the world that we're living in right now. We deal with a lot of fierce competition. You know, who's going to get the next job? Because, I mean, ladies, we're fighting for jobs, eh? We know where we live. We fight for jobs. There's always changes in your organization. Today it's going this way, tomorrow it's going another way. And, you know, we need to deal with that as human beings. Sometimes, you know, the manager's no longer the expert. Sometimes you know more than your manager, and that's okay. There's something called upward coaching. It's something you can learn today, you can use with your own managers. And then the last thing is about customer expectation. So, you know who your customers are. I'm not going to ask you. But you're doing this, you are making yourself the best that you can be so that you can fulfill your customers' needs. But what I want to talk about is why do we actually need those coaching skills? So this is actual research. It says that if you are skilled in coaching, you'll improve your business results by 21%. You'll improve your employee performance. And we were talking about absenteeism at this table here. By 20% if you know how to coach. And lastly, you'll improve the effectiveness of learning by 40%. You are a learning institution. So this should work for you. We hope it's going to work for you. And what that means is that if you know how to engage with people and employees and also your learners, your students, you can translate that skill set into improving their learning. Okay. So the 6 tips I'm going to share, I'm not going to go through all of them extensively because I have a short period of time with you ladies. The first one is your role is central to the success of your employees as a leader and as a manager. Okay? I know some of you are not managers or leaders, but you're going to be one day. I firmly believe that. That's why you're all here. You're going to be leaders and managers one day. And the key to that is you have to develop effective listening skills. So when you were doing the 6 hats, part of what you had to do was listen to what other people were saying. And sometimes we get stuck in how we listen because it's a way of listening, and we're going to do an exercise around that. The other one is to ask good questions. So in your 6 hats exercise as well, you were asking questions. And we're going to talk about what's good and what's a not so great way of asking a question. You'll be able to use it in your 6 hats exercise actually, so it will double up. And the other one is meet your employee at their level. If you are going to speak down to your employee, they're not going to be receptive to what you're saying. If you're going to speak over their heads using high-level concepts and they're not at that level, you're not going to get to them. You need to be empathetic with them and hear what they have to say as well. And understand how to have guided conversations. So Adira said to me, I think it was in this week, one of the things I want to share is about how to give feedback. A feedback session is a guided conversation. A coaching session is a guided conversation. You know, coaches don't just pop up overnight. Many of us go through extensive training to do what we do. But as a leader and a coach, you can also learn these skills. And then the last one is coach in the moment. So when you do feedback, when you engage with people, coach in the moment. There's lots of opportunities for that. Just to let you know what is coaching actually all about. It's about the individual. So it's not about me as the coach. Oops, sorry, put my hand over the mic. It's about the relationship between the individual, the coachee, and the coach. Yeah, I'm not saying it's about the coach. I haven't once said it's about the coach. It's about the individual's commitment to achieving those end goals. Helping that person get to where they want to be. So as a leader, your job is to help your employee get to where they want to be. And then you have to do it in the context of the organization. within which the individual works. If you're doing it in your personal capacity, we have something called life coaches. Many of you would have heard of that. You're doing it in the context of their life. So what's the context that you're working with? And it's going to go back to what the dealer shared with us in, you know, that white hat? What's the information that you're dealing with? I'm not going to go through all the terminology, but I'll share it with the dealer. She can give it all to you. A coach is not a mentor. That's the one thing I want to highlight to you. A mentor is someone who's been through everything. They've got 20 years of experience, and they want to share their learnings and insights with you. They are not going to take on the role of a coach. A coach is not there to share their experience and insights. Okay? They don't do that. They help you find your own solutions. And we use language like coachee and mentee. So that's the person that we're sitting with. It could be your employee, it could be whoever you're working with at that point. No pun intended. No pun intended. There are cornerstones of coaching, 3 of them. The coach is naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. So what does that actually mean? You as an individual, you've got all the answers. I don't have the answers about your life and about your career. You've got it, but I can help you find it. That's my role as a coach. The agenda comes from the coachee. I'm not going to tell you what to work on. You need to say to me, this is important in my life. This is what I want to get out of the conversation and the goals that I have. And the last one is, you are going to design a relationship. It's called designed alliance. Because when you're working with a coach, be clear about what you want from that person. Don't come to them with huge expectations and you don't get anything out of the conversation and say, that coach sucked. No, be clear about what you want. Me as a coach, I will also ask you, what do you expect from me? So it works both ways. As a manager and as a leader, you ask the same question. What would you like out of this conversation? How can I help you? That's an F&B line. I only say because we've got ex-F&B people here. Okay. So I've touched a little bit on this. Your role is central to the success of your employees. The most important one is the one that's in blue. Your role is to create a safe and courageous space for your employee or your coachee. And sometimes I know that's difficult to do because, sometimes you're not always on the same level with our people. They've got issues and they're cross with you today and tomorrow they liquor with you. But try and create that safe space with them and say, listen, come, let's chat. I know you're having some issues. Let's talk about how can I help you with this. But you've got to do it with a few things in mind. Confidentiality is very important. Don't go and tell your colleague about this conversation. Please don't share it. It's confidential. It's that person's information that they're giving to you. Trust is the other one that's also very important. You've got to build that level of trust with the person that you're working with. If the person doesn't trust you, they're not going to share, and then it's not going to work at all. Be authentic. Like a dealer, she is who she is. You know what you're working with. And as a manager, as a leader, be who you are, so they know who you are and what they're getting into. And be open. The openness is about be open to learn from that person, be open to share with that person, and to receive whatever you are getting from that person. The beauty about coaching is that as a coach, you're always learning. People come with wonderful ideas when they actually open up and find their own solutions. You go, oh my word, I didn't even think about that. Because you don't have that answer. So I just wanted to cover that. So, how do you develop these effective listening skills? I'm going to ask you to do an exercise, but let me just explain this first. You're going to get into pairs. There are a couple of levels of listening. Actually, it's only 3 levels of listening. So the first one the last one takes place at the deeper level, where a coach will listen for the themes, the things that people are not saying, things like vision and purpose, fear. What's that internal negative talk that's happening in your head? We all have this, eh? We have this thing that says, it sits in your head, you're never going to get this right. And you listen to that voice, but when you talk to a coach, they're going to ask you and say, hold on, What's the self-talk that's happening in your head? And that's where you go, oh, I didn't know I was self-sabotaging. I was talking, I was talking to myself in a very negative way. So that's what you're going to be listening for. But what I want you to do, ladies, get into pairs. And I want you to sit. I'm going to put a chair here. I want to show you with Adelia.
Facing.
Yeah, facing. And yes, I know, we're social distancing and, but as close as you would like to sit, and you're going to sit like this, as comfortably as possible. And I'm going to ask you, one person must be the listener, and one person must share a story. And I'll tell you what story I want you to share. So just quickly huddle up.
Apparently.
Okay, everybody paired up? Okay, the person who is going to be listening, put your hand up. Only one of you can do the listening at this point. Who's going to be the first listener? Okay, listener. Okay. So I'm not going to tell you what to do, but the person who's telling the story, I just want you to listen like you normally listen, and I'm going to ask you a question afterwards. So the person who is going to tell the story, this is the story I want you to tell, and you've got 1 minute to tell the story. I have to say this for Adelia's sake. She tells really long stories. In 1 minute, what was your first day at school like? Go. And the other person, your listener, don't say a word. You're just listening.
Okay.
You know this one. Okay. If you're done telling your story, put your hand up, please. Okay. Thank you. Back to back. The person who was listening to the story, I want you to repeat the story back to the teller of the story. Okay, if you are done, please raise your hand so we can see that you are done. Everyone is done. So the person who told the first story, how accurate were they? Like, yeah? Almost? Yeah, so, okay, yeah. Okay, now, yours was?
95.
Oh, wow, that's good, 95, wow. Okay, so for some, they heard the words of the story very well. For some, they got it so-so. So for those who got it so-so, it's at level 1 listening that we talk about. And this is, I'll just give you the definition there. It's about you listening to your own internal words while that person is talking. So you're not really focusing on the story 100%. You're listening to that person's internal stuff. And this is where we say, this is where the coachee, the person who's being coached, must listen. I must listen to my own story if I'm being coached. I must, what's going on in my head, what's the story I want to tell. So now I want to ask you a different question. The person who was listening to the story, right? The first person who was listening to the story, please tell the person, were they wearing jewelry? Don't look at them. Tell them, were they wearing jewelry? And they must describe what jewelry. How many of you ladies got it right? Okay. Some. Well done. And that is when you're starting to focus on a little bit more than what is going on in your head. You're observing the person. You're looking at how they are presenting themselves to you. Are they feeling happy? Are they feeling sad? What's in the tone of the voice? So you're going to move from what's called level 2, focusing just on the words, to what is called level 3. So level 3 is where we want you as a leader and manager to really listen to what's going on. So what was the tone of voice that the person used? What could you hear? Were they anxious on their first day of school? Were they happy? Were they excited? Yeah? So you're going to listen for those feelings that they also share in that session. And you're also going to look at the energy, the pace, talking slow. What was the mood like? Oh, don't feel like talking, you know, or you know, like Cordelia, energized the bunny and talks a lot and shares everything, and you know exactly where Cordelia is. You know? So you will listen for all of those things, and the aim as a leader and as a coach to listen more at this level. Don't focus on the level where you know your brain is off somewhere else. I'm going to tell you something. Many of you are parents, yes? Okay. You know, sometimes when your kids come to you and they talk, mommy, and they talk, and you just go, yes. Because that's where we're sitting at level 1. It's like, oh, this child is talking to me and I want to go do something else, or I'm busy with something else. This is what we do, you know. But sometimes we sit at this level 3 here, when we sit with our children and we listen to their story for the day, or when they're sharing deep stuff. And that's what you need to do in every coaching session. Listen for the deep stuff. Also use it, when you're doing your problem solving, listen for the deep stuff. Don't only listen for the surface stuff. Okay. And it takes practice. Believe me, this is not something you get to do overnight. I've seen people struggle with this, and the more you practice, the better you're going to get at it. The best way to do it is to try it with your husband, your partner, your children, because they will tell you if you're really listening or not. Okay? And then you can go try it with your colleagues and your employees as well. So that's the part about developing effective listening skills. The other part is to ask good questions. So if I had said to you, Tina, was your first day at school exciting?
Yes.
Yes. Where did that conversation go? Adelia? Did you have a good drive to work today?
I had a really good drive. I had to play some music, took a call.
Okay, you had a good drive. Adelia will naturally expand on her story. Yeah, it doesn't work with her. She naturally expands on the story. But Tina did exactly what we would do when you ask what's called a closed question. So when you're coaching now, I want you to answer this. I'm going to give each of you a turn to do this one. The first person, go back to your first and second like you did. And I want you to answer this question. What is possible? What is possible? Go for it. Thank you. So the other person, I want you to answer this question. Now you're going to reverse roles, eh? No, not turn. You're just going to reverse roles. I still want you to look at each other and engage. What I would like my legacy to be. Legacy to be. You know what a legacy is, eh? And once again, if you are done, please raise your hands, and I know you are complete. Okay. So you probably would have noticed when you asked your partners those questions, there was lots of conversation going and you were intrigued by their stories. How many of you felt the urge to respond to the story? Yeah, and that's the hardest thing as a coach. You have to let the person speak. And it's okay to resonate with the person, but don't go, and you know what happened to me when I did that. Okay, so try to avoid that one. So let me just conclude on this piece here. So asking good questions is about looking at what's a powerful or insightful question, and you'll see there. These are questions that help leaders understand what drives employees or individuals, what drives their actions, their behaviors, their wants, their fears, their aspirations. And it really opens up the relationship that you have with your employees. It also unlocks things like clarity, possibility. Remember I asked you that question, what's possible? Agility, transformation, deeper knowledge of how people can contribute to values. And also where they want to, the aspiration part was about legacy. When I said, what's your legacy? That's about your aspiration. So here's a list of open-ended questions. And this is what you would do when you engage with your employee. Ask them the whys. You get the question is about the whys and the how. Why? Why is it important? What are your other options? Where do you go from here? Because remember, they're going to come up with the answer. You're not telling them. I know you want to tell them, but you're not going to tell them. Okay? Who else will you include in your decision? Sorry for the typing error there. And then lastly, how will you start? Okay, that's the questions you ask. Don't ask a question that comes up with a yes or no. Yeah. So, Delia likes those ones, yeah. So try to avoid the would, could, can, did, should, have type of questions. Have you done this? Yes. That's all they're going to say. Have you done this? No. If the question has been, how have you done this? It's a different question, and then we'll start talking and expanding on what they've actually done. So that's the thing about asking good questions. There are lots more powerful questions, but this is just the basics. If you use the top parts there and form them into questions, it'll give you those deeper, more insightful type of questions that you can use as well. I was going to share a coaching methodology, but I might not have time for that today here. But I just wanted to share this part. Meet your employee at their level. So this is about assisting your coachee to establish realistic goals. So when you're sitting with your employee or your colleague, make sure that what they're wanting to achieve is realistic. So if they say, oh, well, actually, I want to be the CEO of the company, how realistic is it? And be honest with them. So for some, it is possible, but not for everyone. Yeah. Yeah? You're going to be the next. Yeah. We didn't say you're going to be CEO of this company. You're going to be CEO of your own company. Of course, of your own company. So act as a sounding board. Reflect what they're saying back to them. So that part, remember when I said empathize and resonate with them? Reflect back. What I'm hearing you say is, you had an awesome night last night. Yeah? Challenge the coachee. Yeah, they're going to go, I can't do this. Oh, there was a lovely example this morning when I walked in. I can't do this. But yes, you can. So Adela said, started encouraging and saying, but you can do this. Come, you can stand up here and have this introduction. Facilitate setting of clearly defined objectives. Very important as well. It's very similar to the realistic goals. Ensure an understanding and appreciation of the business strategy and context. I heard what you were talking about, communication and the level of understanding what each department does. So help your employees to understand that. They're never going to know if you don't share it as a leader. Instill a new mindset of accountability and ownership, and that also came up earlier. So have that conversation and say, but this is for you to solve. I'm here to support you. Help them take accountability for their own work. Develop essential thinking patterns and attitudes, and Adila gave us a wonderful example of how you can do that. But also when you say to them, what do you think about this? How do you think you can solve this? It helps them to think through what they're going to do, and you're not giving them the answers, no matter how much you really want to do it. And always seek opportunities to develop and practice for yourself. Okay? Coach for work skills and leadership ability as well. So you can use it in when you want your person to be elevated to lead other people. You can also use it when you want to just coach them on day-to-day work. They come to you with a problem, I don't know how to do this, or that person is working on my nerves, and I need to figure out how to get this done. So you can use the same conversation with them. Okay. Like I said, I'm not going to go through all of them, but this one here is also about understanding where your employee is at. If your employee is new, very little experience, you are going to be a little bit more directive, and just hold them a little bit closer, because they don't have that experience and that understanding. So you're going to give them a little bit more. If the person is highly experienced, please don't use that style, because then you're micromanaging and you're telling them, and that is not how people who have experience would like to be treated or flourish, for that matter. They don't. So you want to go towards a more hands-off, non-directive style when your people have more experience and knowledge. New graduates, you need to hold their hand a little bit, tell them a little bit about how to do their work. So use that as a sliding scale of how you want to work with your employee. Adila, you just need to stop me, eh? I'm not going to go through all of this, but I will share it with Adila. This is the model that is called the power model on guided conversations. So the first part of it is about helping the employee or the person to do or to act. And remember I said that you know the answers. So it says the same thing. The life force exists in all people. And in this model, you are returning the power to the person. And people have to think for themselves and act for themselves. So it covers things like what's the purpose of this conversation? The first P. What's the purpose? What do you want to get out of this conversation? What are the objectives? What do you want to achieve? What's happening right now? It's almost like that white hat story. What's happening right now? What's the information? And then the empowering piece is about, so how do you think you can resolve this? Letting them come up with the solutions. And the last part is about the review. So what's worked? Yeah? Is it actually working? Do you want to try something else? So it's those kind of questions. There's a lot of detail behind this. I will give it to Adelia so you guys have it on hand, but I'm going to go to I think I'm out of time already. I'm going to go through to the last slide. You'll see that. Coaching is a learning process. It involves change. And the change is about you becoming better than what you were yesterday. So it enables people to deal more effectively with the environment, whether it's work, whether it's community, whether it's school, whatever you're doing, home, family homes as well. It's about learning. The learning is shown as a change in your behavior as a result of your experience. So experience will help you shift forward. And reflecting on experience through coaching will help you move forward. Lastly, I spoke about coaching in the moment. So that's what great coaches do. That's what great managers and leaders do. They practice. They have an action plan for self-coaching. Adila spoke about this. Self-management. They believe in human potential. They focus on learning. They listen, as we did that exercise, and ask great questions too, eh? And then they use the performance management process. And the last one I put in because Adila had the question about giving feedback. Coaching is essential in a performance management process and giving feedback to your employees in a positive way so that they can grow and develop. And that's it from my side. Thank you, Adila.